Oh, let's start off with a cough. Hello, everyone. Spirit of 420 here, because everything I do is so 420, including starting off a show by coughing. I'm not even going to say the name of this bowl, because every time I seem to say the name, or every time I say the name of this bowl, it seems that I get age restricted. So I'm not going to say the name. All right. I get it, GoogTube, because, you know, Google owns YouTube, BoobTube. That's what it is. Anyway, hello, everyone. Good to see you. Oh, that is just perfect, fresh and hot, just the way it's supposed to be. Thank you so much, wife of mine. So, excuse me. I'm gonna get my voice there. Tonight, I want to keep it light and try to get back to some of the stuff that I did in the beginning. And what I mean by that is when I first started this, kind of get back to it. You know, there's been a bit of a one hiatus and two, or a hiatus of me being me and being back to where I was getting, if you will. And, you know, sometimes in order to take 5 steps forward, you have to take a few steps back. So I have essentially, in my opinion, taken care of the steps back, and now it's time to step forward, as they say. So tonight I thought I would talk about one of the running themes that I have: times I should be dead. This one takes place in 1994, and it's May 4th. So technically, I had not actually turned 22 yet. I was the ripe old age of 21, just a couple of weeks away from it. This was May 4th, 1994. You can look it up. Pink Floyd played 2 shows, unless they played more than that. I believe it was only 2 shows. They played 2 shows, and it's Bobby Dodd Stadium, or you might know it as Grant Field, but it is where Georgia Tech plays their football games. It's their football stadium, and they filled this place up twice. And dude, it was an incredible show. First of all, I went tripping, and I'm pretty sure I was on both. I had not been introduced to ecstasy yet, but I was on both mushrooms as well as some amount of LSD. It seems like I did, I want to say maybe 2 hits of white blotter on that particular evening. And let's see, my wife says I'm fuzzy. There we go. So that particular evening, I did, pretty sure I did 2 hits of white blotter and ate some mushrooms. I don't know the exact amount of mushrooms, but it was probably, you know, at least 3 or 4 grams, knowing me and back then. And that was pretty lit, but the show was incredible, and there's no other way to have watched this show. I will say that. They had this huge archway of lights combined with a big circle of lights. Circle and the archway both had imagery on it. And this is 94. So they didn't have the computer. They had computer graphics. I'm not saying that they didn't, but they weren't using computer technology to the nearly to the degree that they are these days. And I'm telling you, it still was something to behold. You can go back and watch footage. You can look up, people took footage, but nothing does it justice. And I don't know that they did now what you can do is find a legitimate, any, what's the word? Find any professional footage of that tour, and it's basically the same show that I saw, with the exception of maybe the playlist might be slightly different, right? But the big songs that matter to understand the type of production that we're talking about here, folks. I mean, like, literally, that place holds 70,000. This was a stadium concert. They almost all the songs were pretty much the same. There's a few slots that you could tell they left open, but anything that had big special effects that were interactive with the audience, like they did, like for Pigs on the Wing, pigs came out and floated over the fucking stadium. It was just incredible. When they did Another Brick in the Wall, like every time they did anything that was extremely well known, put it that way, and expected, quite frankly. Plus, these guys played for like 3 hours. They played like almost every single hit that you would want them to play, including I'm pretty sure they did Wish You Were Here that night. I say that only because I just did a tweet in lieu of discussing Pink Floyd. I was listening to Wish You Were Here, which also obviously makes me think of Skylar. Here's to the Lord of the Limitless. But back to this because this was about, me nearly dying. So had gone to the entire show, went through the show, had a great time, was with my girlfriend, who I call Layla, really doesn't matter what I call her, but she was my girlfriend at the time. And there's backstory, so that I didn't even tell you was going to happen. So stick around and you'll hear a funny surprise to this evening. I'll give you one hint. Just remember this: I am a polypansexual at this point in my life. So here you go. All right. Anyway, show was incredible. So it's now probably about 11:30. This is downtown Atlanta. If you don't know the setting, we're talking about Grant Field is maybe just, I want to say 2 blocks, maybe 3 blocks over, excuse me, from Peachtree, which is like one of the main veins through downtown. Not to mention, it's only 1 block over from I-75/85. So it's not just I-75 or I-85. This is where 75 and 85 come together, and you got like 13, to 17 lanes total of traffic, depending on, which way you're going. And what I mean by that is you have anywhere between 6 to as many as 8 lanes flowing in any one direction, any one time, just depending on which part of downtown you are. And you're still talking about 1994, so people drove even worse than they do today. I promise you, things haven't gotten better. People have only gotten worse, but maybe they've gotten a little bit better. Who knows? They still drove like idiots, and we walked like idiots. Let me just say that. Before I say this next part too, it's funny because at the time I had moved to Athens, and I had just recently found out. This was a fact that I had just recently found out because I'd been living in Athens for about maybe 6 months or so. And someone was telling me that Athens had the highest number of people being hit by buses, right? And I was like, wow, okay, that's an interesting fact. And it makes sense. If you know Athens, Athens, Georgia, it is the home of UGA. So it's where the Bulldogs are. To give you a comparison, there's like 30,000 kids that go there in the summer, right? So we're talking about a huge number of children, if you will, just hitting the campus every day, main veins of Athens. And I only say this because I found that very interesting that, wow, so there's so many people walking, blah, 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 right? So here I am, cut to about 6 months later. I'm in downtown Atlanta. Just got done watching Pink Floyd. Obviously, this is mushrooms and acid, so the trip is not anywhere near over, right? It's really right in the middle of what's just beginning, if you will, because these usually last in the neighborhood of around 8 hours, and I had been going now for about 2.5 hours, right? So we're walking. One of the smart things that you do when you go to a show like that in Atlanta is you take the MARTA, which is their local transportation. So we were just simply walking up to get to the train station, right? And the buses ran too. So it was MARTA buses and MARTA rail, right? And as we're walking, I don't remember how it happened, Okay. But I'm trying to put yourself in. So here's the sidewalk over here, and we're walking this way, right? And I think somebody had gotten in front of me, and I'm talking to them, and I just step out into the street and I'm doing something like da da da. And all of a sudden, my girlfriend just really quickly grabs me by the shirt and pulls me like that. And as she does, I feel the bus whiffing by. And I'm talking about, dude, this is downtown Atlanta. These bus drivers are doing 35, 40. Had that bus hit me, I promise you, it would have just fucking pancaked me. And I can't believe that I didn't suffer even so much as a nick. It was that close. I could feel the whiff of my hair. Like everybody was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. I had to stop for a minute and be like, did that just fucking happen? So if it wasn't for Lola, who ended up hating me, by the way, would have died right there. That is definitely one of the times that I should have been dead. And thank you, Lord, that it didn't happen, because otherwise, you guys wouldn't have me here doing the show now. So I have to tell you, it's funny because, Skylar, this is one of the reasons too. And don't worry, I'm not going to get morbid. So don't freak out that I'm talking about him, but it's funny because that kid should have been dead so many times. It's crazy. Right. And I'll just give you one, for instance, when he was 11, he was hit while he was on a bike by a tank. When I say a tank, it was like pretty sure it was either a Cadillac. His brother remembers, but it was like it was like one of those kind of cars, or maybe a Oldsmobile, but I'm talking like a big car that an old man drives. And that's exactly what was driving. It was like 60 something year old dude, right? Threw him up in the air. That kid was walking around like, there was no broken bones. So all I can tell you is he was, he was destined to go through, because he went through some more shit, and I'll share that another time. But anyway, with all the love in the world that this woman had, here's the side note, right? We went to this Pink Floyd show with a couple of brothers who were friends of mine. We'll just call them Gerald and Gerardo, right? I say that because the first letters of their names were the same, so I have to keep that much, if you will, keep that part of it the same. And I had met Gerald. We'll call him Jerry, right? Jerry had become a really close friend of mine, but it was only because of Gerardo that I met Jerry. Gerardo and I worked landscaping together years prior. So I was now just days before I was 22. I met Gerardo and Jerry. It's been more than 3 years now. And in fact, when I say Gerardo, I didn't really care for him so much. It was a fact, which I had forgiven him because I wasn't with her anymore, but he fucked my previous girlfriend. He and my previous girlfriend cheated on one another, right? So, cut to, it's now 2.5, 3 years later. I'm up there really to hang out with Jerry, who got the tickets and invited my girlfriend and I, right? But we were staying at Gerardo's. So you can probably see where this is going, except I didn't find out until 6 months later. And here's how I found out. And if you haven't figured out, I'll tell you what I found out here in just a second. But here's how I found out. I found out because my girlfriend was reading my diary and read that I had slept with this chick at work more than once. And we had simple rules. Like, this was the first relationship that I tried that had these intricate rules of, you could be with other people. But here were the simple rules. It couldn't be anybody that was a friend of mine or a friend of hers, right? It couldn't be each other's friends. You didn't want to hear about it, so you couldn't tell each other about it. And never more than once, right? Well, I had broken the rule because I had slept with this chick twice. Now, she didn't know my girlfriend, but I had clearly slept with her twice because I had it in the book. So then she tells me how she slept with Gerardo at the Pink Floyd concert after I finally passed out from tripping at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's the days, folks, of infidelity and, everybody was sleeping with everybody. It really wasn't any different in 94 than it was in 84 or 74 or 64. I mean, like, it's just, my point is that's always going on in that age group. It's amazing. It's happening right now. There's somebody right now that's cheating on their best friend that's in their 20s. And it just doesn't matter. I'll tell you that. So, by the way, it ended up that we both broke the rules multiple times. So, those whole rule, the whole rule thing, nah, it didn't fly. It did not work. I will tell you that right now. So, in light of the conversation for tonight, I thought I would do something a little bit different. And I have a couple of these books here. One of them's, they're both 500 funny quotes for men and then 500 funny quotes for women. So on the men, I'm going to start off, and I already got queued up drugs and alcohol. And I was just going to read a couple of these because I thought these were pretty cute. And just put us all in a good mood, right? I'll read it and then tell you who said it. I've never had a problem with drugs. I've had problems with the police. Keith Richards. That's a good one. Soon after my grandmother's death, we were amused to find among odds and ends in her dressing table drawer a bottle labeled "Might Be Aspirin." Gene Gibbs. That's pretty funny. Let's see. I was trying to find somebody that all of y'all might know. That was horrible English. Well, I don't know who this is. That's definitely not. Okay, here's one. Here's one. All I can say is that I have taken more out of alcohol than alcohol has taken out of me. Winston Churchill. That's pretty funny. I like that. James Joyce. Here we go. Well, I already told you. Okay, so whatever. I am a strict tolerant, whatever. Tolerant, whatever. I never take anything between drinks. There we go. Oh, I actually really like this dude, so I have to. I formed a new group called Alcoholics Unanimous. If you don't feel like a drink, you ring another member and he comes over to persuade you. Richard Harris. So I thought those were, don't get me wrong, but I thought they would put some people in a good mood. Maybe not. I don't care. So here's the one on women, though. And they didn't have one for drugs and alcohol, but they did have one for sex. So I wouldn't kidnap a man for sex, but I'm not saying I couldn't use someone to oil the mower. Victoria Wood. That's funny. When the sun comes up, I have morals again. Elizabeth Taylor. Isn't that funny? I swear I thought these books were written a little bit newer, but some of these people are really... But people will say the damnedest things, right? But I don't see anybody else I even want. There's another Elizabeth Taylor, but I'm not going to bother. I thought that they would be more interesting. So I thought it was going to be something to add to it. But hey, not everything works out the way that you want it to. And sometimes it's a swing and it's a miss. I did not find those quotes as funny as the book claimed. Raise your hand if you feel the same way. So, in fact, I thought, for the most part, it felt like that book was done in the 60s, maybe. That's the interesting part now. Let's make it interesting there. When the hell was that book done? Because this is not new. And if it was, then the guy who wrote it is old. That's all I have to say. It doesn't even... Okay, there we go. Wow. There's no fucking way. Copyright 2021. The dude, though, must have a birthday of 1940, right? Because like the quotes are just, I'm telling you, it's all older folks, and there's a lot of great quotes out there. I thought this is one of them. I'll be putting this one back on the shelves. Thank God. I actually love that. If anybody hasn't done it, or if you're looking to read more, I will say this. Amazon, the king and queen of books for sure, since that's what they started on, does have that unlimited, Kindle Unlimited. That's actually worthwhile. A lot of great books. Obviously, there's a lot of duds, but the nice thing is, as soon as you find out it's a dud, you can quickly trade that shit in and be done with it. So tonight's show was not meant to be a long one. Just wanted to share that little story with you. I don't need to always be going on for 45, 50 minutes. And in fact, isn't it sometimes just boring to keep going? I think so. And I mean, I've really said what I wanted to say. You got the idea of what it was like. I was tripping my nuts off. I was in another world. I nearly died. And then my girlfriend later that night decided it was time to go ahead and sleep with somebody other than me. And we did. Trust me, I mean, I was tripping. So you can imagine that we had our time, you know. So all I can say is he was okay with, Gerardo was okay with sloppy seconds. And it is what it is. I love each of you. You know, it's a new year. New things. I am working hard to get my new banners and stuff done. I've just had other things. I'm trying to look for a job as well. And I'm also still have a company that I'm trying to get off the ground, but I have to put that on hold until I get employment. So it's just one step at a time kind of thing. What I can promise you is I will be back on, I told you it would either be today or Wednesday. So Wednesday I'll have another Dick Flick investigation, and then we'll have part 3 of Big Panda Little Dragon, Tiny Dragon. Excuse me, Big Panda Tiny Dragon on Friday. So have a wonderful evening. I hope all of you are safe. You're all incredible people. You're all individually different than anyone else. Remember that. It's not just a fingerprint. The reason your fingerprint matters is that shows you each person is different. If your fingerprint's different, then there's no two personalities that are alike either. Doesn't that really go without saying, honestly? Think about it. No two personalities are alike, which makes your personality extremely what? Unique and special and incredible, right? So have a wonderful tonight. Have a better tomorrow. I will see you again on Wednesday with a Dick Flick. See, messed you up. Flick Dick investigation. Wait and see what it is. I might have two. Who knows? If I can binge watch the rest of Wednesday, then I'll review that one. Anyway, have a great evening. Till then, see you.
You can't have my phone number unless we running up the digits. Let me meditate. I just need a couple minutes. Tryna low bump me. My cojones to the big ass. Bitch, I get high. I ain't looking at the clock still.
Oh, wait. Still, I'm on. That's right, because I messed up. So I figured I'd come on and talk about how I just fucked up. And I really don't give a shit that I fucked up, but it was funny. So that means I just get to do my outro one more time. Peace. Everybody have a wonderful evening. And see you Wednesday.
You can't have my phone number unless we running up the digits. Let me meditate. I just need a couple minutes. Tryna low bump me. My cojones to the big ass. Bitch, I get high. I ain't looking at the clock still.